record. Um, I am Chiagozie Fawole. I am a pediatric anesthesiologist based here in the Syracuse, New York area. We've been um, entrepreneur now for a few years. And if I were to tell you my story a little bit, and I could really, it began with, real estate. We bought property. We did the whole run around rental property, flipping, doing all of that. But in roughly 2021, I heard something that made me go, and that was a possibility of buying a business. Now, at the time, I didn't think it was for me, okay? But then I went for an event in 2022 that not just showed me that there was a possibility of making money with buying a business, but it helped me realize it was for me. Okay. And so today I have the pleasure of having Michael Byars on here because he was the one that hosted the event at the time that I attended that just like broke it down and took it from this is what the guys on Wall Street do to this is what we do. This is what we can do. This is what people like me can do. This is what people like you can do. Okay. So my hope this evening is that by the time we're done, let's see who needs to be. Let's see. Allow participants to unmute themselves. Am I muted? There we go. Okay. So my job this evening is hopefully that by the time we're done, that you can also see yourself and call this your own Me Too. Type Me Too in the chat, okay? The good Me Too, not the bad one, okay? not the bad one, all right? Now tell me before I even get to like start to pick Mike's brain about all this stuff, okay? Tell me in the chat what made you hop on this call tonight on a Monday evening at 7:20, 7:13 p.m. What made you hop on this call tonight? What was that goal or that question in your mind or that possibility that you were sort of like thinking about? Like, what made you say, you know what, Chiagozie is hosting this thing, or however you heard about this call. I think I would like to hop on and take a listen. What is that life goal, that life dream, that life, or even life pain, maybe, right? That made you think, you know what, I need to take out some time on a Monday evening to learn about possibly buying a business. Tell me in the chat. Okay, so I see Shania here. Shania says, I want to fully replace my physician income, and I know it is very possible. I love it. That right there is what exactly I love. Okay, so she said, looking to hear about investing opportunities so that I can cut down on working in the ED. Greg says, I love to be a business owner that provides service to others and provides potential generational wealth for my family. Love it. Okay, so go ahead and just keep typing your motivations because we actually read through these, right? Because these are not scripted, okay? Particularly this one is not scripted. So we really would need you to like, I really like to know exactly what it is that made you show up this evening so that as I ask my questions, because it'll be an interview style, Q&A style session this evening, okay, that I will make sure that we address those particular things that matter to you. This is not, multiple, 100 slide session. No, this is going to be a very educational session. We do have an event coming up. You're going to hear about it at the end. So don't like, we're not trying to pull any wool in front of anybody's eyes. Like we just need you to be present, focused, and very well capture what it is, how it'll be sharing with you this evening. Okay. So good evening, Mike. I'm going to add you here. So welcome, Mike. I'm really excited that you could come on tonight.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Would you mind just like introducing yourself? Actually, should I introduce yourself? You know what? I'll let you introduce yourself, okay? Because I already put in the, in the beginning, on the landing pages that, that you've done this for over 20 years, that, that your current portfolio does over 145 million, that, you've done over 50 deals. But I want them to hear it from you directly. So please go ahead and just like introduce yourself, tell the people who you are, why you're here tonight, and all of that.
All right, awesome. Once again, thank you for having me, and thank every one of you guys for showing up to hang out with us tonight. My name's Michael Byars, like Chiagozie said. I grew up in a small little town in South Carolina. We were super poor. Lived in a single wide mobile home with no heat or air till I was probably 15 or 16. Luckily, I did pretty well in school and got a full ride to Clemson University for chemical engineering. While I was there, I started a small little tech company. I started out with, one or two small locations of customers there. I grew it to where we manage over 10,000 endpoints in the field. As I was doing that, I started buying companies. I was looking for more cash flow and, really other places to put the income that I was making. How was I going to diversify? So I bought some restaurants. And, if any of you guys have ever had a restaurant, that's a 18-hour a day job that is brutal. So I kept those about 9 years. I sold them. And when I sold them, I started buying real estate. I currently have about 185, somewhere between 185 and 190 properties, single family homes that I rent out, and 10 commercial buildings. All of that's debt free. Everything is paid for. I don't have any debt on any of the stuff that I have. But, as I started buying the homes, I started understanding, I needed different businesses to be able to service that industry. So I bought a property management company. I bought a forestry mulching company. I bought a heating and air company. I bought a plumbing company. I bought a concrete company. I was doing a lot of development, but I wanted to be able to service my tenants. At the end of the day with the tech company, I sold a lot of stuff that other people sold. And, the only thing that differentiated me was the level and the quality of service I was giving my customers. I wanted to carry that, that thought pattern and those ethics right over into anything else that I'd done. Hmm. So I continued to grow that. I got that kind of running on autopilot, and I started branching out, diversifying, buying other businesses in different spaces. I mean, I've had chemical companies. I've had mailbox stores. I own a chain of coffee restaurants, and I own a coffee roastery. We do wholesale as well. Just a ton of different weird stuff that, I've acquired throughout the years that, has done pretty well for me. Like Chiagozie said, I've got 21 companies under management currently. We'll do 140 to 150 million a year, just depending on the year and what's trending at the time. But I do that, and I continue to buy businesses because I'm buying cash flow. Mm-hmm. So really encourage you guys as we go through this stuff tonight to really think about that and think about what you're going to do. Real estate's good. Like I told you guys, I've got a lot of real estate myself, but I'm making the money in the businesses. I'm preserving it in the real estate. There's a place for both of them in your portfolio. So just kind of start thinking outside the box as we go here tonight, and you'll hopefully you'll get some eye-opening discussions here.
Yeah, no, really good. I always love to hear a story because, like, I think about the fact that I started with a restaurant, and now you're like, restaurant, no. No
restaurant. That's horrible.
So you kind of began talking about it, and that is the fact that, like, that's the dance between real estate and business acquisition. And I love to address that first during our sessions, because I know that a lot of people in my world particularly came into our world when we were talking a lot about real estate, about short-term rentals, about all of that. And so people are probably thinking like, well, Chiagozie, like, 2 years ago you were talking about short-term rentals. Like, how does this compare? Is this better? Is this worse? We like the randomized control trials, which don't exist in business, but they love the, how do these two things compare? So Mike, tell us, like, compared to your, 180 or so, rental properties, how does buying a business compare, cash flow wise, management wise, etc.?
So for me, in the, the real estate stuff, and probably for any of you that are on here tonight that are in the real estate space, you're going to net somewhere between 10 and 15. For me, it's normally about 12% is what I'm going to net out. After all the tenants, taxes, termites, toilets that tear up, all of the stuff, I'm going to net out around 12%. On the businesses I'm buying, I'm not buying anything that nets anything less than 25 to 30%. So I'm getting twice plus the returns. Like like the heat and air company and the plumbing company, they all net over 30% a year. The coffee company, it's going to, net that 20 to 25. It's a big volume game, but I was able to 3x that company since I bought it, so it was worth it. I've seen the growth that was available. But, for me, I can take the same $100,000 that I would spend on, let's say I was going to buy a $500,000 portfolio of rental houses. Maybe it's 2, maybe it's 3, maybe it's whatever, right? I can take that same $100,000 that's going to make me 12% a year. If I bought a $500,000 portfolio of homes here in my area, I could get 5 homes for that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just in a rural part of South Carolina still. So with that being said, if you break them down on the 1% rule, you're going to get 1% of rent for what you pay for them. If you give $100,000 a piece for them, you're going to get $1,000 a month. If I go through that, I'm getting $5,000 a month for rental income. You go through that, you're going to make about 12% a year. So let me just pull up. I think I've got it on a spreadsheet here.
Yeah, I was trying to see if I could pull it up too, but
yeah, I got it.
You find it faster than me.
Yeah, I know where it's at. At the end of the day, here it goes. Can I share my screen?
Yes.
I can show this one for the movie, that the video that I did.
Okay.
This might be the best. Let me see if I can. With the master manual. Hang on. This will really break it down so you guys really understand it. Can you see that?
Yes.
We have a lot of real estate investors coming in. So, a lot of times we compare what we do with real estate because we're from the real estate space with about 175 single family homes. Here, as you can see, for 5 single family homes, if we bought them at $100,000 a piece, you got $500,000 for your initial purchase price. 20% down leaves you at the $100,000 down payment mark. 3.5% interest for 30 years. Principal and interest would give you $1,750 a month. Taxes $1,000 a month. Insurance $875 a month. And your rent at the 1% rule is going to be $5,000 per month. When you subtract out all the expenses, that leaves you a net cash flow of $1,375 per month. Times 12 months leaves you with about $16,500 per year of net cash flow. Whereas a business acquisition, you have $1 million purchase price, 10% down is the same $100,000 as you have over here with your single family homes. 30% cash flow business, which is what we like, leaves you with $900,000 financed at 5% for 10 years, which leaves you with a $10,200 per month payment. That's $122,400 annual debt service. $300,000 annual net profit. $300,000 profit minus $122,400 debt service leaves you with $177,600 net profit per year versus the $16,500 net profit that you would get off the same investment into the single family home. As you can see, the difference in the net cash flow from the business versus the real estate is huge. You have the same initial investment for real estate versus a business acquisition, but you've got almost 10 times the net profit.
That was the, yeah.
You guys could hear all that, right?
Yeah.
All right, great.
No, that was the math that I saw that I was like, wait, hold up.
Big difference, eh?
Hold the way up. Is there anyone else who saw those numbers like I saw them? If you saw those numbers and it made you sort of start thinking a second time, like just type a me in the chat. Let me know the people that are here. Okay. Jeanette, thank you, Jeanette. I mean, I know I'm not the only one. Okay. Go ahead, Mike. So yeah, continue your comparison.
Yeah, so I mean, for me, it's been huge to be able to understand the difference but also understand that in my portfolio, both asset classes, they have a home, right?
Yeah.
I like that real estate where I preserve that wealth. I'm going to get 12%, and it just kind of coasts along, right? But I also like those businesses. It gives me something to do, and it's going to generate that 30% plus.
Mm. Yeah. So this question I always anticipate, and as a matter of fact, it has now become just I just put it in the training thing, because once people get past the okay, businesses are great to buy, the next thing is, but are they great to buy for me because I'm a doctor, I'm a pharmacist, I'm a whatever, name the busy profession, right? And they're asking, okay, so how in the world, are you able to manage all of this with a busy schedule? In your case, you have over 20, and you still have just 24 hours like we do, right?
Right,
So
right.
what do you do to, like, how are you able to manage all of these that is possibly translatable to a doctor or professional who is considering maybe, venturing into buying a business?
So I can tell you, like with the companies I have, I've got a quarterback for every one of them,
Mm-hmm.
or an operator, right? I'm looking for companies where either the old owner wants to stay on, or I can take and move that number two guy to number one to be able to be my quarterback, right? I'm
Mm-hmm.
not going to buy something if there's not a quarterback in place, unless I have someone from my network that I can put in said spot, right? So I mean, I can tell you, it's like last year, Chiagozie knows. I took my son and my mom and my family. We all went to Yellowstone National Park, Glacier National Park. We were on the road. I bought one of those big Sprinter vans, and we stayed on the road for about 6.5 weeks. Never missed a beat. Everything I had, it was trucking right along. We didn't have any issues, any hiccups, just because I've got good infrastructure in place. I've got a good operator for every company I've got.
Mm.
That's the most important piece of the puzzle here, folks. You got to have a good quarterback if you're not going to be that quarterback. If you're looking for something passive or semi-passive, you got to have that good quarterback. That's extremely important.
Can you explain what or who a quarterback is in this context?
Yeah, I mean, it's just somebody who's operating the day-to-day business. He is the ringleader for all of the circus animals, right?
Mm.
He is you know he or she, you know they're in there just grinding away, making sure the wheels don't fall off the bus, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're super in tune and understand everything about the business, and they're essentially a manager
Mm.
or an operator.
Yeah. Yeah. So like for the so then the next question that would often then come up is, how do you find that quarterback? How do you identify that quarterback? And then next to that is, at what point are you identifying the said person?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always going to be looking for something with with a quarterback in place. Either the old owner who wants to stay on and continue to run it. Maybe they just don't want as much of a headache
Mm-hmm.
as running the business. They like doing the thing. They just don't like the business side of it. Or I'm looking for a number two guy. If the old owner is going to leave, I want to be able to have a number two guy that I can move to that number one position.
Hmm. So now people are probably thinking, okay, now I mean, that sounds doable, right? Like if I was able to find someone that could potentially run the business and all of that. Now, what kinds of businesses are good to look for? Do you have any criteria that you use to search for businesses, or like how do you identify um how do you identify which businesses to work? Like, the questions that are coming in here are just so like on point.
Yeah, I know, right? I know.
So perfect.
So I'm looking for something that's been in business 10 years or longer. They've got 10 or more employees. Their net margin is 30% plus.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking for something that's the cost price is somewhere between 1 million and 7 million. You know, I'm looking for something that's stable. They've got, SOPs built in place. Everybody knows what their role is and what they're doing. And once again, I got to have that quarterback. I got to have the number two guy that I can move to a number one guy.
Mm. Let me see. Yeah. So if you miss that, those are like four, was it 4 or 5 things that you said there?
Yep.
4 or 5 things that Mike always looks for. So Mike, let's now actually just kind of walk through those things that you mentioned so that people can actually understand like why you chose those 5 things. The first thing, if in case you missed it, the first thing he says was revenue of 1 to 7 million roughly, and then profit margin of what is it, 25 to like 30% plus.
25 to 30 plus. Yeah. I won't do anything less than 25% because if you do, it's not going to cover debt service. Debt service
Mm-hmm.
normally is, you know, 10 to 15%. So you got to be able to pay that.
Yeah. And then and the revenue part, why do you try to stay within that 1 to 7-ish
Right.
range
So,
million?
so at $1 million, that company is going to be too expensive for chucking a truck, the one man
Mm-hmm.
band. They're not going to be able to afford that. Those guys are normally in that $300,000 or less range. They got one or two employees. They're just kind of trucking along. When you get over that $1 million, you kind of eliminate those guys. But I'm trying to stay under 7 because private equity, investment banks, those type of guys, they're not buying anything with right now anything less than about $2.5 to $3 million EBITDA or net profit. So there's a weird little space there in that $1 to $7 million range where nobody's shopping. You
Mm.
know, it's too big of a deal for your small guy, and it's a too small of a deal for your big guy. So there's a cool little untapped market there that's, that I find a lot of deals. I'll
Mm.
look at a ton of deals a year, but last year I bought 7 and sold 5. So, there's opportunity in that space.
Now, so the profit margin we've talked about. The next would be the 10 employees. Why
Right.
why 10 employees?
Yeah, I'm looking for 10 plus employees because at the end of the day, most companies I buy, when you buy it, you got about a 10% turnover. That means I'm going to lose one person if I've got 10 people. Either they're old and they've just been hanging out because they've known Bob or Sam or whoever the old owner is for 30 years and they've just worked there and they're a staple.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to, if the old owner leaves, a lot of times they will. Or maybe there's, the old owners, maybe it's a husband and wife team, right? The wife might be doing the books. She might leave, or the son might be working. He might leave. You know how today's generations are. Mom and daddy get a big fat check. The son's going to go live on the beach and be Instagram famous, right? So, you've got to consider all these things, but I want at least 10 employees because that's going to insulate me from, losing one or two. If I
Mm-hmm.
lose one or two, the wheels aren't going to fall off the bus. We're still going to be able to operate. But just think about it this way. If you had 4 employees and you lost 2 or 3 on closing day or closing week, now you're in a bad spot,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
If I've got 10 or 12 or 15 or 20, if I lose one or two, I can rehire and keep on keeping on.
Yeah. No, yeah. It's really as I've been searching, that's like one trap that I have made, like drilled into my head. As a matter of fact, like right now, that's sort of like my first screening question because it helps me answer even more questions before I even start the main thing. Because it's like, how many employees do you have? You tell me 4, it's a wrap, we're done. Like you can be making, 17 million, and I'm like, but it's only 4 people. it's, but
Right.
it's only 4 people. That could be auntie, cousin, nephew.
Right.
And, once you get that payout, they all get their little itty bitty amounts and everyone's done.
Right. And I can tell you probably I don't know, probably 60 to 70% of the companies I buy, we don't lose anybody, right? It's just about creating a good transition. But there's times when you're going to lose one, or if the husband and wife were in there working, you're going to lose two of them right there, or the husband and wife and the kids, you know. So you just got to understand how many people you're going to end up with, 3 months in.
Yeah. Now we kind of talked about how the cash flow can look, okay? And I'm sure somebody is thinking, okay, so Chiagozie, like, what could this really, really look like? Maybe we can just take a moment and just show people, sample deals that are on the market. And you could probably share your screen. Maybe we use like Big Deal Machine or something to take a look here. Anybody like to see something in their market? We always do this live, right? Like we like to just like shoot the breeze here and see what comes up. Shania is on it tonight. Atlanta. All right. I love it.
All right. We can sort by.
Okay. I see Atlanta. I see Philly. Dr. Josie is here. Miami. Okay. We'll start with Atlanta.
There's 39 companies in Georgia where the asking price is over $1 million and the cash flow is over 500,000.
Yeah.
So
let me just highlight that thing you just said there. There are 39 with the cash flow over 500,000.
Right.
Just in case somebody missed that minor point, but you can carry on.
Right. So, there's a ton of stuff for sale. Let's see. Goes a grading company. Here goes the kitchen cabinet business. They want $2 million for it. Goes a restaurant. I don't like restaurants and bars.
Pharmacy. Well,
here goes a pharmacy.
Pharmacy, yeah.
They want 4.8 for it, and it's netting $2 million a year. That's a pretty good deal. I would actually look into that. Here goes an accounting firm. If any of you guys here are accountants, they want $2.5 million for it. It's netting $1 million a year. Goes a logistics company. They want 4.1. It's netting 1.4, right at 1.5. Manufacturing business. They want 2.7. It's cash flowing 6.30. Specialty auto repair business. $2 million, 691,000. It's not a bad deal here. Sign manufacturing installation. They want 3.5. It's cash flow 1.35.
So two questions that have popped in the chat that I think are probably good to answer here. One of them is, do you find businesses that are already working well or that need help? Like, what's that thing? Turnaround businesses.
If it needs help, that's not a good deal for me. I'm only going to buy stuff that's cash flowing. I don't do any turnarounds. I don't do any startups.
Yeah.
So if it's not doing its thing on autopilot, it's really not for me. For me, I want to buy stuff that I can add value to, but I want to add value through technology, not from having to turn it around and, dig it out of the gutter and all that jazz. That's just not for me. Not for me.
The person with the name iPhone, just put your name in there so that I'm not calling you iPhone. But you're saying it's cash flowing, but a disaster. Oh, hi, Heather. Said it's cash flowing, but a disaster operationally. So would you do one that is a disaster operationally, Mike?
I am buying systems, operations, and processes.
Yeah.
If it's a disaster, that means it's a turnaround. That means I got to go in there and fix all that stuff, which I am not interested in. If it's a disaster operationally, you don't have a number 2 person you can move to the number 1. You don't have a quarterback. So
Yeah.
that puts you as being the quarterback.
Yeah,
And
you got to work.
there's no way you can scale that way. You know, maybe I bought some tech companies to bolt onto my current tech company that were a disaster, but I was buying it for the technology. I didn't care if anybody stayed. I didn't care what they did, any of that stuff. All I needed was the technology that I was already licensing.
Mm.
So at the end of the day, are there scenarios? Yeah, probably. But you know, there is in your scenario, if it's not one of those things that you're already in, I wouldn't fool with it.
Maybe we can check out Philly. How was the next market that somebody else mentioned?
Philadelphia? All
Yeah.
right, cool. I just got to sort it by state. I
I
can't
see,
sort it
yeah.
by.
Mm-hmm.
So in Philadelphia, there's 25 entries. Um, HVAC company.
Mm.
They only have 7 employees, but I'd still go look at this if it wasn't owner operated.
Mm.
This home care based
Mm-hmm.
in Pennsylvania. They want $3 million. It's netting 750. 114 employees. I mean, think about this, guys. If you bought this and you lost 10 employees, it's not going to bankrupt you. You're still going to be able to pay the note. You're still going to be able to make some money. This is a real good deal. If whoever's in Philly, I don't know where this guy's at, but that's I can look though. Hold on. It's in Philadelphia.
It is in Philly, yep.
Philadelphia County. It hasn't been in business 10 years, it's only been in business 5. But the seller will train. The reason for sale is timing. Whoever's in Philly needs to get on here and get this.
Mm.
Hold on a second, I'll drop the link in there for you guys to go look.
Yep.
I'm gonna drop this in the chat.
Okay.
All right. On to the next. So you got that in Philly. You got here's a supermarket for sale. Everybody's always got to have groceries.
Mm.
So, that's probably not a bad deal either. Let's look at this. Home goods distributor. They want $3.5 million for it. It's cash flowing 500. That's a little high, but they got 36 employees. I mean, if you could buy it for, I don't know, depending on what their inventory is, $2 million probably a good deal. I like this, especially industrial sales, material handling sales. Want $5 million for it. It's cash flowing 2.1. Crumble cookie franchises, those are a trap. Stay away from them. Yeah, yeah, they're a trap. Niche trucking company. I like transportation. That's never going away. You're looking for something that's recession resistant. What is never going away, right?
Yep.
Trucking's never going away. Heating and air, plumbing, roofing, none of that stuff's ever going away. Roofing, although the margins on it are horrible. You don't want to fool with that. Here goes a pre-owned car dealership. That's not a bad deal. $2 million for 800,000 worth of cash flow. Yeah, for sure, I'd do that deal. Assisted living facility for special needs. They want 4.8. It's cash flowing 813. 27 employees. There's some good deals out there.
Yeah.
You want to look any other spot?
We could probably do one more in Miami.
So that'd be Florida.
Yeah.
This isn't in Miami, it's in St. Augustine.
Okay.
But military and aerospace fasteners and electromechanical hardware. They want $3 million for its cash flow in 627. That business is never going anywhere. Never. here goes a beverage and snack distribution in Miami-Dade. They want 3.4 for 1.3. I mean, that's pretty steady.
Yeah.
Here goes a good one. I don't know how many employees they've got, but hydraulic repair company. They want $1,050,000 for it for 1.2 million in cash flow. You're even the first year.
Mm-hmm. And then that the one on the top left, the Premier Window Tinting Company, that looked cash flow looked decent. 683.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah. 36
They
employees. Yeah.
they did right at 2.8. That's a lot of windows you got to tint though.
Maybe we can now talk about what I think a lot of people's minds, because I mean, now, is anybody else like me? Like your mind is now kind of spinning, like, oh my goodness, this is possible. Because I think for most people, when like they buy property, they're like, okay, well, this house is going to make me, 50K, 100K if it's a short-term rental. But now you can actually now see that, like, with one deal, who here has seen a deal that if they did, of all the ones that Mike showed, right? Have you found a deal that he has shown that if you did that deal, you could possibly make your entire salary in one transaction? Who here has seen it? Without overthinking it right now, just at baseline, just based on what you've just seen here, who has seen one deal that if you could somehow figure out how you could get it, you could do your entire salary in one transaction? Type me in the chat. Just type one deal in the chat. Let me see my one deal people. Okay, I see Shania, I see Peter Gay. Who else? Who else is seeing that, like, of all the things he has shown so far, someone who goes, okay, that deal can replace my salary with the cash flow. That deal can replace my salary with the cash flow. All right, I've seen, okay, just 4 people. All right, y'all must be really rich, because I mean, I'm seeing cash flow 700,000. Okay. Okay, so Jeanette is asking, what percentage do you pay the operator? You don't have to pay them a percentage, you pay them a salary. And that salary will already be factored into the cash flow. So when we talk about cash flow, that is after you pay the operator.
Right.
After you pay the operator. Right? Okay.
That doesn't mean you can't give them something.
Yeah, you can give them
most of my quarterbacks, I give them a small piece of the pie just to keep them invested in the company as well.
Yeah. Amazing, amazing. Okay, so I saw a question here that I thought will be a nice angle to kind of switch to. People are probably wondering, okay, so how do we pay for this again? Like, what are the options for possibly, funding these deals? A lot of people aren't, yeah.
There's tons of ways to do creative finance deals, owner financing deals. If you're in the US, the SBA has got a great program. It's 10% down. They'll finance the rest of it. It's decently easy to get a SBA loan. It's a bunch of paperwork, but they're loaning on the cash flow of the business, not necessarily on you. Now, I've seen deals get done with a 650 credit score. It's not like you can't, not be able to finance a Snicker bar and have a 400 credit score and get a $4 million loan. They're not going to do that. But they're not as concentrated on you and your income or your assets as they are the business. The bank's sole concern to start with is, how do we get even? Mm-hmm. The interest is it's a plus for them, right? That's how they make money. But if they give you $4 million, their main concern is, how do we get even? That's first on their list. And the good thing with the SBA loans is, when the SBA backs a bank loan, they back it 70% of it. Mm-hmm. So in the grand scheme of things, if it's a 10-year loan, you pay 3 years, the bank's off the hook. If you decide in year 4 that you don't want to pay anymore, you can't pay anymore, whatever, the bank doesn't care. The SBA will reimburse them for your loan. Now, I'm not saying go buy a business and stop paying on that for 3 years. I'm saying the bank likes the SBA loans because they're 70% guaranteed. If you pay for the bank's off the hook. On to the next loan, right?
Yeah. 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 And then of course, like you mentioned, there are, a bunch of other creative ways, even like I'll even say compared to real estate, where everybody talks about, like creative financing with businesses, there's like a whole list of other, amazing
Oh yeah.
creative things you could possibly do. Depending on the deal that's actually in hand. Now, just on the location piece, because I've seen this question come up a few times. Do you have to buy a business in the city where you live, or what's your thought on location of a business that you buy?
No, so you don't have to buy something in the same place. You know, if you don't have any experience in that market or in that line of work, they're going to want you to be decently close, an hour and a half, 2 hours away. And they're going to want you to have some sort of involvement in the day to day for a short period of time. They're not going to. If you're a doctor, they're not gonna let you buy a well drilling company. If you're a doctor and live in Florida, they're not gonna let you buy a well drilling company in California, right?
Mm.
It's just not gonna happen unless you got 10 well drilling operations in Florida. You're familiar with the business. You can run it remotely, right? So, but they they want to ensure that you can pay them back.
Yeah.
All of that depends on your track record. A lot of you guys in here are doctors or pharmacists. If you're currently running a pharmacy and I've got a friend of mine up in Virginia and West Virginia. He's got 6 pharmacies that he runs that are all around him. If he wanted to go to Florida and buy a pharmacy, the SBA would loan on that because he's got a good track record. He's bringing in $15 million a year. He's netting probably, 3.5, $4.5 million a year. Yes, they'll loan on that because he's running the other pharmacies remotely. They can see that he's got the capacity to do that. But if he was a plumber in Virginia and wanted to buy a pharmacy in Florida, they probably ain't gonna give him no money.
Yeah. Now, have any of you considered buying medical practices? If you've considered buying a medical practice, type a 2 in the chat. Let me see who here has considered that. Okay. That's Heather, Peter. There you go. So there are actually loan products that will let doctors buy medical practices for 0 down.
Yep.
A nice fat
Depending
0
on
down.
the industry experience.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Nice. Let me see what else I had on here. There was another question that came up here that I thought. Okay. So I'm gonna take a few questions here that were okay. So someone asked, what happens when you buy the business? Okay. And that was more so on like a transition, like how does the transition happen? How do you actually take over? And I'm trying to find the actual question. But yeah, like what happens like after you actually buy the business, how do you determine what your next steps are? What general things have to happen in that transition period?
Yeah, honestly, I'm really looking for as I'm doing the due diligence, I'm going to already have a game plan on what I'm going to change or how I'm going to implement technology to build that company, right? And I'm going to understand that before I get into the deal. If I can't grow it or I can't understand how I can grow it, probably not going to do the deal. But as I go in, I think it's super important for anyone looking to buy a business to understand that you've got to have a game plan to scale it, right? You got to have a game plan to grow it. Unless it's something that you're currently in that you can grow it through other ways, right? You've got to do some research. You've got to understand, I'm going to do these 5 things or these 10 things to get started, right? But it's also extremely important not to buy something that's not cash flowing. You don't want to do a turnaround. I want to be able take the money that that business is generating, reinvest it back into the business for growth.
Yeah. No, it makes a lot of sense. So now I have now seen a few questions that kind of like say, well, I'm a doctor. And we always get them, right? Because people are always like, well, I'm a doctor. What business can I buy? I have no experience, outside of medicine. All I know how to do is X. All I know is anesthesia. All I know is, hemonc. All I know is whatever. What would you say to someone who is saying, all I know is, as they think about possibly venturing into buying businesses?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you got to think about it. All you know is how to be a doctor. Well, you weren't born knowing how to be a doctor, right? If you're hungry and you're willing to put in the work, you can learn anything,
Yeah.
right? And education is something nobody can take away from you. I can tell you this statistically, 95% of startups fail in the first 5 years. Also, statistically, less than 10% of acquisitions fail in the first 5 years. I mean, at the end of the day, I like my odds, right? If I can operate 5 years without failing because they've operated, 5, 10, 20 years before me, they've built the roadmap. I know exactly what I'm supposed to do. Things that are in motion tend to stay in motion, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I follow the roadmap they've built, this worked. It made money. If you do X, you get Y. And that's what I'm looking for every time,
Yeah.
right?
And that's exactly why we're not doing turnarounds.
No.
That's exactly why you are going for businesses that are making money, that are in motion, because the very next question that I'm going to see pop up in here, watch it, is going to be, but why would anybody sell that business?
Right. I'm looking for something boring and profitable.
Yeah.
But, why would people sell that business? Let's talk about it. Death, divorce, health. I mean, all y'all that are doctors, you see people every day. When they come in there to your office, your operating room, whatever it is that you're doing, what's on their mind?
Mm-hmm.
Are they thinking about, well, I wonder what they're doing back at the office? No, all they care about is how do I get better? I don't care what it costs, what I got to do. I just want to get better, right? People get in that mindset. A lot of times they need money, right? Medical care is expensive. Or, they may be too sick to go back to work.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to shut down something they've built. They've got 15 employees there that depends on them. Betty at the front desk has been working there for the last 15 years. Maybe they've watched Betty's kids grow up. Maybe they sponsor Betty's son's baseball team or Betty's daughter's dance class. They don't want to see Betty and her kids have to go suffer because they got sick. Why can't we sell it to someone else? Let them continue to carry on our legacy. Or think about, the older age folks of today. I mean, they can't give it to a lot of their kids or their grandkids. The grandkids, they're more worried about becoming Instagram famous than running grandpa's old boring, nasty ball bearing facility in Cleveland, Ohio. They don't care anything about that. That's not cool, right? So there's tons of opportunity out there.
Yeah. I mean, I even just this past week, a few of you may have seen my post on one of the Facebook groups where I posted about a doc in Atlanta that's looking to sell her practice because she wants to retire. She's got, she wants to travel. She wants to be able to spend time, more time in Europe. And she has 10 plus employees, right? So she's like, she sees that what she's built is still producing, but she can't just shut the doors and walk away because now an entire community is waiting for her. But then that same practice, that same business could feed a new person, right? It could be a business that either one of you could step into. And when you step in, you have her patients, you have her team, you have her MA, you have her nurse practitioner, you have all those people already in place, plus even the building for those who are real estate inclined. So it's like, again, it was one of those things that like after I saw it the first time, it's like,
Couldn't
wait
unsee it.
a minute.
Yeah.
You'll be like, it's so hard to unsee. It's so hard to unsee. All right, let me see if there are any other questions here that I feel are general enough to be able to answer live. Um, all right. Okay, so okay, I think we have okay, let's talk a little bit about the due diligence period. And I don't think we have to go like necessarily in depth, but just that there is a due diligence period.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
you're going to have a due diligence period to understand this business, to understand, whatever it is you're looking at. And for me, if I'm looking at an on market deal, my due diligence period and time from when I find a deal to when I close on it is normally around 6 months. If I am trying to buy an off market deal, normally that due diligence period is doubled. It's right around a year, maybe a little bit longer.
Hmm. Oh wow. Yeah, because usually takes the off-market folks a little while to get their stuff together and grab paperwork and all of that. So Louis says he found a urology practice in Houston, asking 1.8, 2.8 in revenue, 10 employees, 800K profit. You may be able to get that down for zero down, Louis. You just need to find the guys that lent to practices. I had a guy on my phone at some point. I don't know if I still have it. Okay, so we'll take PC's question. Hey Doc, by the way, how are you? I haven't seen you in a while. So she's asking, who are the key people on your team that make the deal happen? Attorney, accountant, anybody else?
Yeah, attorney, you need a good business attorney, you need a good CPA. CPA is going to be huge to help you through due diligence. You know, I've got a lot of connections. If I'm
Yeah,
buying something, I'm going to pick up the phone and call someone I know in that space. Hey, what would you charge me to go look at this company? If I'm super serious and I'm down the line with it, I want someone in the space to also look at it.
yeah,
But you're going to spend money on attorneys, you're going to spend money on CPAs, you're going to spend money on travel.
yeah,
You know, I mean, I know Chiagozie knows, but I worked on a deal a few years back in the medical space, and I spent $80,000 on due diligence and about 12 weeks on the road and scrapped it. So, you know, but it's about an $18 million deal. It would have been a good deal if I could have got across the finish line, but they were doing some things that they probably should not have been doing. And it was good for me that I did spend that money, spend that time on the road, you know, going and talking to everyone that I could find, because right now those guys are in jail. So yeah. So that's a great example of why it's good to do very stringent due diligence.
yeah. Oh yeah. I mean I always talk about that one phone call I made I had. So a few years ago, Mike was hosting an event like the one that we'll be hosting soon. And somehow I had been talking to him about the event. And so one day I had a deal I was working on. And so I called him about the event. But then while I had him on the phone, I was like, hey, I have this one question. I was in the middle of due diligence. I had put down like, I think it was like $28,000 with my attorney and accountant guy. And they had come up with a couple of like flags, right? And they were like, this may not be. And I was like, there is no way. No, no way. This has to be like this. This is so small, it can't be that big of an issue. And then I told Mike, and Mike was like, yeah, on to the next one. I was like,
Leave it up to me to rain on your parade.
on to the next, like what?
Yep.
I remember exactly. I was driving into the parking lot. I still remember where I was when he was like, yeah, on to the next one. And I could not believe my ears, but it taught me something. It was like, okay, next time.
Pick
talk to Mike before you have the attorney. Before you no, yeah, but that one definitely made me realize, okay, so this stuff, I mean, I love acquisitions, like just going through the numbers, getting to kind of see what people are doing at the back of their businesses, going through their financials, making offers and all of that, but also doing it with the good dose of humility, because unlike real estate where you can just turn around and just sell it, businesses are a little, they're like big things that when you get them they cash flow, but you want to make sure you got the right one. um what are the what are the what do you know in terms of numbers? Okay. Um, let's take this one question here. I think somebody else asked a similar question that I'll take with Nalini's question here, and that is, when you're looking at the business, are there any certain like numbers? Now you mentioned the profitability. So Nalini, he mentioned earlier that he will buy them, with so the 5 criteria that he mentioned were revenue of 1 to 7 million, profit margin of 25 to 30% and above, obviously, 10 employees or more, and what's the fourth one now? Oh, 10 years in business or more. And then the fifth one I always like to add is that there's an operator in place, somebody that can actually run the business. But somebody else mentioned earlier, is there a ratio that you like to use in terms of purchase price to cash flow? And I think what you may be getting at there is when people talk about multiples, and I know we have a whole like spiel on that. If you wanted to talk about the idea of multiples and cash flow and all of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think multiples are a good and a bad thing, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it's all, the business is worth what the market will pay for it,
Yeah.
right? So I mean, multiples are a vague number, right? And it's like, it's kind of like how long is a piece of string, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, different industries will command different multiples, but they're so varied depending on how do they have systems, operations, processes in order. How's their sales team? How's their operational team? How's their finances? If all that's a train wreck, you're going to get way lower multiple. If everything's dialed in, you might get a little higher of a multiple, right? And a multiple is your net profit or EBITDA multiplied times however many years, right? So, at the end of the day, I, you know, you're. I'll give you a great example. I've seen heat and air companies sell for 1x, and I've seen them sell for 12x, right? And the difference in the multiples would be, how they're currently run. Do they have everything put together? How are their systems, operations, processes? Do they have standard operating procedures? Does everybody know what they're doing, or is everybody just kind of wandering around aimlessly? That's super important. The better that is, the better it's structured, the more you're going to get for the company when you decide to sell it. Also, alternatively, the better it is, the better it's structured, the more you can expect to pay for that company when you go to buy it. But you're buying cash flow, and you're buying something that's steady. I'll pay for something that's a better deal. I'll overpay for a better deal 10 times out of 10 before I'll underpay for a decent deal.
Nice. I think now is probably a good time for us to talk about what's happening in September. If you would like to hear how you could possibly sit in a room with Mike and us really for a whole weekend to learn about how you can get started with doing your own deals, type a 3 in the chat. Let me be sure that there's that someone here wants to hear about it. If you want to learn how you could literally be in a room an entire weekend, learning from Mike and the team, about how to acquire your own cash flowing business, type a 3 in the chat. All right, so I'm seeing, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 people out of, I don't know, 30 something here. Okay, so just 4 people. All right, maybe we'll just should we just all right. Okay. All right. Let me see. Are there 2 more people that want to hear about this? Let me just be sure. Otherwise, okay, one before I send them a text. Okay, perfect. All right, good, good, good. Okay. So I think we can talk about it. So in September, Mike, do you want to talk about it or should I talk about it? Which of you?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. So this September, so I mentioned earlier that that a few years ago I attended an event that Mike hosted where he broke down just in beautiful terms in one weekend in a nice contained container the process of buying a business in such a way that I went from thinking, it's for them. Has anybody had something that sounded so good that it just felt like that sounds really cool, but I think it's for them? If that's you, type a 4 in the chat. If you've ever had something presented to you that you were like, yeah, that's cool, but I don't know if it's for me. It's for them. Okay, okay, thank you. Thank you. Because that was how I felt for about 2 years. 2 years, I was in acquisition circles, but I always felt like somebody that was in like the big girl class, right? It's like you being a kid and you happen to just like go with your sister for your elder sister's party, right? You feel very out of place, but you feel like you're in the cool kids club, but you still feel like you're completely out of place. That was how I was before I went for Mike's event. And so, but when I was at Mike's event, particularly on the last day when they showed a couple of just like businesses and just broke down the full analysis of how they walked through just the analysis in their heads. And I sat there and I'm like I can totally do this. And that was when it unpopped for me. Actually, it was during breakfast. And if you need to watch this, I can share the link with you. But during breakfast on Sunday, I sat down with a young lady at the time, well, not young lady, a lady at the time who had just acquired a coffee shop. And in her first year, in her first month, I think she made something like 30K profit her first month of owning the business. And I was sitting down next to her during breakfast, and I'm thinking to myself, she has one head. Where my Nigerians in the room? She had one head. And I was thinking, if she okay, all right, I'll I'll find the link while I'm talking. So I was thinking to myself that, oh my goodness, if this amazing lady, she had like 2 kids or something at the time, I'm like, if she could do this and um get the business done, and I think she got that business for zero out of pocket.
She did.
I was like, what she's doing, whatever she's doing, I can do. And I left that event. The event was in August. By January, was it January or March? I think March was the end of our due diligence. So by about January, I had found a business that I was going to buy. That was the business that I ended up getting under what will be under contract, under LOI, within a few months of going for that event. But I share this. Hey, Augusta. I share this. This is the video right here. You can watch after. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Millie. Thank you. Oh, I didn't even see it. Oh, thank you. Okay. So 2 links are in the chat right now. There is the link to see the video, Chelsea's video, because I interviewed her eventually. And then there is also a link for you to join Catalyst. So 2 months ago, oh, sorry, a month and a half ago, I asked Mike and I said, hey, you know how that event that you hosted was so like critical in my own life and growth, business acquisition wise? The simple fact that I could just come to a place and learn kind of like front to end, like front to finish, how to like go about the whole process in a nice, like, where all the, the nuances are broken down and the things to, check for and the ways to structure deals broken down in one weekend so that you walk away just feeling like, I can do this. Would you be willing to do that kind of an event with us? And he said, yeah, let's do it. And so Catalyst Live was born. Okay. And Millie has shared the link in the chat. post it again, Millie, okay? So September 12th through the 14th, we're going to be hosting a full-on training workshop, okay? It's going to be a full training workshop. This is not fluff. This is not like rah rah rah, multiple, 1500 speakers. And I love conferences, don't get me wrong. I love conferences, I love multiple speakers, I love all of those things, but this is a little different. This is a high level, high touch workshop training where you're going to come and you're going to be learning from us, from really the team, and you'll be learning how to find businesses. Okay, a few of you asked about this. There are different ways to find. I particularly like the off-market ways that Mike finds deals. So he showed us, the on-market deals this evening, and that is great when you're starting out. But as you build, you will find that being able to source your own deals can be even sweeter. The deals may take a little longer to go through, but if you're patient enough and just work through them, right, then you can get through them. So you learn how to find deals. You learn how to refine your buying criteria. So Mike has given you, so again, this is not like, a gatekeeping session. He's giving you the very like 5 filter rules that we use to search. But during the event, we break down even more nuances. Like I can picture those slides in my I can picture those slides in my head now, because now I've seen them a few times, right? Of the different, like the industries that he avoids, industries that are okay right now. I remember a few months ago when we did Catalyst, excuse me, virtually, somebody brought a deal onto the call, and Mike saw the deal and was like, yeah, no, this one, no. And the person was like, what would I have seen on here to tell me that it was a bad deal? And in my head, I was thinking, but you're here, and that's how you know, right? So we'll walk through different ways to find deals, ways to screen your deals, ways to interact with, how to interact with brokers, how to get past those initial gatekeeping activities how the brokers do, how to fund the deal. So we talked about SBA, but other creative financing strategies. That's a whole hour-long session talking about creative financing, how to scale the deal. So now in real estate, you'd have how to fix up, but we're not buying turnarounds, but how to scale them, the levers that you pull to potentially scale the deal. So we talked, so Maja, we talked about financing deals. We talked about the SBA. We talked about other creative financing things that and then I just said now that like creative financing on a whole is a whole hour long. It's a whole hour long session. Like it literally is an hour. I'm saying hour long. The last time we did on Catalyst was probably like 3 hours long, but
Yeah.
but it's a good hour. It's a good hour-long session. So while we're at the conference, we'll have enough time. It's gonna be like a good, so the 12th through the 14th, so Friday, Saturday, and then we finish up on Sunday morning. Would you be able to do after the weekend? Oh, perfect. Great question. So by the time you're done with the conference, you will be able to go out and source and finance your deals. Done. Like I left that conference and I found my deal. That was how. Okay. Now there is an application process. As you will see on the link, you will see that there's an application. Fill it out as best as you can. Okay. And we do have some automation on the back end that may send you a text or whatever. But if you find, if you put in your answers or whatever and you get a disqualification, we're still going to go back and we're going to review. We are going to review your answers even after our initial screening, and we will be back in touch with you. So again, September 12th through the 14th, right here in upstate New York. People ask me, is there a virtual option? The answer is there is a live stream option. Okay, so perfect, Dr. Uwa. Yes, there is a live stream option, which means you're able to attend the event sort of virtually, but live. There is that option. Yes. Now, There are a few perks. So one of the things that I've enjoyed working with Mike on is that he has a very like generous mindset. And I've worked with different people that have very different perspectives, but that's not so but Mike's is really great because as we talked about this, he said, you know, if somebody has a business partner that they want to come for the event with, there is a business partner sort of package that we can tell you about when we get, you know, when we get to past the application phase. But the other most important thing is that if you have a kid 18 years or younger, so 18 and under, they can attend for free. Okay. So again, fill out the application. And I see I'm getting on my watch here that a few of you already have. But fill out the application so that you know you can get talking with Carol and our team so that you can get that process going. And when you speak with Carol, Carol is going to go over everything with you, including the cost, including the investment, including all of that. I can tell you that when I left that event and I found the business that I found, if that business had gone through, I would have been making $450,000 in that deal. Now, that particular deal ended up not closing because I spoke with Mike. But because I had that opportunity, I actually was saved a possible loss of 1.3 million. So sometimes the benefit you get is from the deal that you close, and sometimes the benefit you get is from the deal, from the bad deal or the trouble that you avoid. Okay. So I always like to kind of encourage people to get in these rooms. Now, I have talked about the hard, you know, the hard features, if you may, of this of attending this event. But here is an extra benefit that you probably have not thought about your journey so far. You're going to be walking into a room where you will be in the company of other high achieving professionals like you, very much likely like you, working towards the same goal. Guess what that gives you? That gives you basically an instant network, right? That you can now, like, if you have a deal going on, you can now say, oh my goodness, Dr. Valerie was at the event. Dr. Valerie told me she, you know, she knows someone, blah, blah, blah. And then you're calling up Dr. Valerie and you're saying, hey, doc, I remember at the event you mentioned you may have a connection for X, right? And now you're not in just your little silo trying to figure out how to make a deal work. You now have a network that you can tap into. I already told you my own benefit that was literally me going from thinking it's for them to heck yeah, it's for us, right? It went from them to us. Okay. So if you are contemplating, maybe thinking possibly, I don't know if I can make it, if I can do this, if I can do, just put in your application, post that link again, Millie, please. Put in your application and let us talk. Because when you see the numbers that we shared earlier, we didn't script really any of this, honestly. Mike came on the call at like 6:50 and I was like, how are we doing this? Q&A? He's like, yep, let's do it. And I'm like, yeah, let's do it because it's literally like we're not making stuff up. These are things we're doing every single day. I have a person that I'm talking with about a deal right now. Like this is what we're doing right now. And I feel personally driven to bring this to our community of busy professionals, most of you doctors, because a lot of you I have met, you know, in the short-term rental circuit. A lot of you I have spoken with, you know, who are buying rental property. And when I talk with a lot of you and I ask you what your actual goal is, the numbers that you actually are telling me, I'm like, one transaction and we'll hit those numbers with a good business. One transaction. So that's why we do this. If you have filled out your application, can you type a 4 in the chat? Let me just see who here has filled out an application so that way I know those who I'm still talking. Okay, doc. All right, I see you. Okay, just type in the chat if you have filled out your application. And again, if you get an instant response that said, you're not qualified or whatever, we're going to go back and we're going to review all of them and kind of see what all the answers are. Because Okay, I'm seeing them coming in. There you go. Okay, so I'm seeing your applications, Dr. Daniela, Maha, Laura. Okay, there we go. So just keep filling out the applications. Millie, post that link again onto the main chat, so that those who have not yet filled it out can fill it out, and we can get in touch with them, and we can make sure that those who are going to be who are going to benefit from this get a chance to attend Catalyst Live. All right, great. So what other questions do you have? We'll take questions for another 4 minutes because it's almost, at the 90-minute mark. What other questions do you have about what we talked about that how we can answer, or about the live event? Like I said, when you get on the call with Carol, if you filled it out and and you saw the screen with the calendar, go ahead and book a call onto Carol's calendar so that you can get that spot secured, because you want to get those. I'm not sure how many. I mean, she has spots open, I'm sure, but just make sure that you get that filled out right away. All right. Any other questions that we can take before we wrap this up in 4 minutes?
Also, Chiagozie, if they want to learn more about me or what I do, is it okay if I just drop the link to my Facebook page there? They can go there and review some of the some of the content I put out, and see if it resonates.
Yep. All right. Okay, other questions. If you have not yet filled out your application and you have a question before you do that, type it in the chat. Let's answer them, because I really believe that for the people in my community, okay, let me share with you how much I believe in this event. When we hosted this, when we hosted the virtual one, what was it, in December, my dad my dad said, I'm signing up, okay? And he did. And he showed up, okay? This is the first time that we're doing it live in our community, in person in our community. But if my dad pulled out his card and literally showed up, and it tells you how much I believe in it and what he saw in what I believe in it to have come himself, okay? So this is not one of those things where it's dealing with and hiring and firing. Okay. Oh, that's a great question. Okay. Let's take Nalini's question. Dealing with hiring and firing is the biggest challenge typically. How do you deal with it when we acquire someone else's staff?
You're going to want to learn a lot about the staff during your due diligence process, right? You're going to buy stuff sometime where you just don't mesh with those people. That's why it's super important to buy something with 10 or more employees. Right back to to my buy box. If you've got one or two you don't mesh with, maybe they have to go. Maybe you have to replace them. But if you've got 4 employees and 2 of them have to go, you're in a bad spot. So the more employees you can get, the safer the deal always is.
Great. Other questions?
Anyone else have any other questions?
Okay, he said got it. Okay, who else? Who else has a question?
You know me, I'm horrible about looking at the chat.
Oh, no, it's open on my screen. That's my one job here, right? So I'm on both of them. Don't worry, I got you.
There you go.
Yeah, so again, logistical issues. Now, if you not problems, but just to clarify, if you're trying to schedule a call and you don't see a date or a window open, just send us a text on the on the same place that you got the reminders, and we will try to find someone else on our team to talk with you, because that just means that Carol's schedule, and this is why I want you guys to apply now so that you can get as many of Carol's spots as you can. But I may have some availability to put you on my own schedule. So if you check there and you don't see a spot, just text us on the thing, and that way we will get you situated with someone. Okay, another question here. Do you have an exit plan while buying the business? How many businesses typically can a person handle?
That's all going to be person by person, right?
Yeah.
I've got 21 now. I've had up to 25 at one time, you know, but it all depends on your quarterbacks. If you got good people in place that can help run those businesses for you and you're only a phone call away, I think that number is endless, right?
Yeah.
But you got to buy certain parameters. You can't just go out there all willy-nilly and buy something with 2 employees and nobody knows what's going on except the owner. You're just going to get yourself in a trap.
Yeah. Yeah. So it really comes
But
down to that
the buy
quarterback.
box parameters were created from my mistakes. Every time I made a mistake, I always change the parameter.
You need a certain personality.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I bought businesses from all types of personalities. Keyword in that sentence was all.
Oh, because I know like it's usually introverts that are like, well, I'm an introvert or I'm an extrovert or whatever. And I like to remind people that like on my even as recently as my residency like evaluations, they always said she knows her stuff, but she's really quiet. So character traits are learnable, honestly. So it says micromanaging personality.
That depends, I mean,
Yeah.
if you're going to be in something that requires something like that, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Thing is, everything can be refined. What you think is your quote unquote personality, it's really trainable, honestly. Yeah.
right.
All right. All right. So who else has put in their application? If you have put in the application, okay. I came late, so I'm a little lost. Okay. Yeah. So the replay for this is gonna go out shortly after it is recorded. Oh, the application. Okay. So here, can you post that link again? Millie, can you put that link again on here? The link. Okay, so on the link that Millie is going to post right now, if you click on the join catalyst or whatever, then you will see the application and this one here. Let me copy it here. So Augusta, that's the link. Okay, on that link, you will see the application. You can apply and we'll be in touch with you. There you go. Yep, same one. Yep, the same one. Exactly. Yep. All right, awesome. So here is yes. Can you send to your daughter? Yes. So yes, absolutely. Send to your daughter. Now, if you want to send it to your daughter, this is the link that I will have you send her. You can send her the link that eventually comes to you. But if you think your daughter needs to be in this axis and hearing about what we're doing, you can send her this original one, savvydoc.events.com/PAW. That's the one for your daughter, Jeanette. Okay, so that way she also gets put into our access and she can get other useful resources and hear about our future trainings. But if you are here and you want to apply, this is the link for you to apply on that link. Okay, let's take another question before we hop off. Again, Catalyst Live, September 12th through the 14th, up here in upstate New York. This is the best time to be in upstate New York. You have no idea. It's lovely up here, and you're gonna be learning in a room, building a network, getting that confidence that you need to go out there to talk to brokers so that when you when you create your website or you create your Facebook page or adjust your LinkedIn title, it's not just, some kind of shady or whatever thing. Like you actually embody the personality and the reality that you know what you're doing because you would have learned what you're doing, okay? When it comes to acquiring a business. When you talk to sellers, you will learn the lingo, you will learn, the terminology, the phrases, you will learn to look through. I'm even thinking of a session where we, break down how to review the financials. without being an accountant, the doctor version, right? Without being an accountant, so that way, like, you're familiar with the things that we did not learn in med school or whatever other professional school that you may have gone to. Okay, again, if you have a business partner, we have a business partner package, actual business partner, right? A spouse or somebody that you're actually buying the same deal with. Yep. If you have a kid, someone that you're like, what, don't know where Social Security is going the next, 5, 10 years. I better teach my kid how to build their own future. Bring them along if they're 18 or younger. And we have seen 14-year-olds buy med spas, 16-year-olds buy, all of these. And it's real, guys. All right. We'll take one more question if there is. If you have applied, let me see the people that have applied in the chat. Type a 6 in the chat. Type a 6 in the chat if you have applied and you're still here. Just so I know to keep an eye out. I'll probably see all of them anyway, but I just want to see. There we go. Nalini, who else? Who else has applied? There we go, Dr. Augusta. There we go. She said, I'm on it. All right. Very good. Okay. Any other questions before we hop off? If you have not applied, type a question in the chat because you must have a question. I mean, who doesn't want to be in the room? I can't think of why you wouldn't want to be in the room. If you have not applied, tell me why in the chat. What's going on? What's making you not even as much as apply? How have you ruled yourself out of this goodness so that I can make sure that we break it before we go? All right. Okay. Now, if you have applied, tell me in the chat what made you apply. Oh, time slots. Oh, yeah, we'll fix the time slots thing. Augusta, text me. I'll text you my number there. Just text me. How do I get to you directly? Text me. I'm gonna give you my number there. We'll find you a slot. That's my phone number that I just sent you, so we can find you a slot. All right. Okay, perfect. There we go. Oh, okay. So Natalie is afraid that your micromanaging personality hinders learning the skill. Don't rule yourself out. Don't rule yourself out like that. That's probably just a mindset thing. You just probably need to just work through. We can walk through that. That's those that mindset gremlins. Spend enough time with us, I will take care of that. That's right. All right. Okay. So who else? What was the thing that made you say, you know what, I've got to be in Syracuse and I've got to be in upstate New York in September? Type that in the chat. Let's know what it was that did it for you. Like, what is it that's making you say, you know what, I'm coming, or I want to come at least enough to apply? Let me know. Because we want to make sure that all this stuff is relevant and that we're communicating it in a very relevant way. There we go. She needs to build wealth. There you go. Okay. Good. Excellent. Who else? I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Okay. All right. Well, I'm not going to keep you all too long tonight. I'm so grateful and glad that you all, there you go. Trying to find the number of yours, but cash flow. Okay. Millie, can you find Dr. Augusta on the back end and text her? There you go. Got it. Okay, perfect. And good. Perfect. All right, great. So yeah, so thank you all for coming on tonight. Okay. I'm seeing the messages here. All right. All right. So we'll basically keep tabs of you on the back end here and we'll be in touch. So yeah, so thanks guys for hopping on this evening, and thanks Mike again for coming on this evening and sharing your wisdom. I'm really looking forward to September. And I'm really anticipating the light bulbs that will go off in people's minds when we meet in September. But again, guys, if you have any friends, any family members, any colleagues that you know will benefit from any and all of this, invite them, have them watch the replay, show them the replay, share the links with them, because this is not a one person thing, where literally the goal is to help like generations build wealth, right? So just bring them all in, and hopefully, oh, there we go. Okay, so peace as well. There you go. All right. To basically help turn generations around, help people establish their own lineage of generational wealth with all of this. So again, thank you so much, guys. Appreciate you all. Have an amazing evening, and we'll take good care of yourselves.
Thank you for the opportunity to
My
speak to
pleasure,
y'all.
Mike. Thanks for coming.
Yep. Have a good night.
Good night.